It is a downhill crown.
Really? Hang on. Wait, let me just check the paperwork.
Will's just left the building.
yeah.
He's gone to get the crown. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of the Gary Word Trail Running Podcast. It's Mark here, also with my co-hosts Bill and Paddy. I just would like to acknowledge the Djapurrung and the Jawajali as the traditional custodians of the Gary Word area and pay my respects to their elders past and present, and just recognising their custodianship over this land. Now, one of the really impressive things to me is trail running is that connection to nature, and it's so important to the Jawajali people. We've just entered what's called Gwangulmaran, which is the season of autumn in the Gary Word seasonal calendar, and it recognises that transition from a parched landscape in late summer into more crisper mornings and beautiful days, highlighted by, you see the pink heath, Victoria's floral emblem coming out across the countryside. I would like to welcome, we've got a very, very special guest today. He's got more crowns than the three of us combined, plus the Ersk Valley Orienteers. Absolute local legend, Will.
Thanks for having me today. I'm excited to be here. Probably not as serious of a trail runner as I once was.
But you look the part today, Will.
I still have the gear. I don't get out as often as I'd like to, but...
I think Will's a familiar face to a lot of Gary Word trail runners, but I've got to say he's not so familiar to me today based on his get-up.
There are parts of Will that you haven't seen before.
Oh, not lately, no.
Whether you like it or not, this is peak athletic performance in front of you.
For a start, I don't even know where to get blue Band-Aids.
That's a hospitality thing, but they do work really well to cover your nipples for trail chafe. I've experienced that quite a few times before, especially in the rain, so...
I'm not sure how it's going to go with hair removal.
Pretty horrible, but that's okay.
Yeah, I want to know at what time did you decide that this has been on, because we have been talking about bringing you on for a little bit. At what stage did you decide that this was the appropriate podcast attire?
About 45 minutes ago, I swung by the brewery, picked up some beers, found some Band-Aids, and went through the cupboard for all my old trail running gear. So,
can we please just describe a little bit of what you're not wearing, as well as what you sort of are wearing?
I've come today in mostly skin. From the feet up, I've got my original Lunar sandals, which I started trail running in. That was a big step forwards for me in finding out that I could actually running in more minimal shoes. So I don't run in them anymore, but I've still got them. And today I've gone with the trusty socks and sandals. I've got the Injinji toe socks.
Got some dad vibes going there on the feet.
And then I've got my Nike short shorts, and it's a bit warm today, so to top it all off, I've got a...
Ultimate Direction trail running vest.
There you go, Ultimate Direction trail running vest. And a buff by the good people at Head Socks. There you go.
Oh, nice.
And that's it. The rest of me is a lot of carb loading and preparing for the trails.
It's an amazing look, and I wouldn't be surprised if everybody's wearing that tomorrow.
Oh, you are going to see this every 6 months from now. So,
and you stacked up the hydration parts of your Ultimate Direction vest with cans of beer from
the local brewery. That's it.
Paper, Scissors, Rock.
No affiliation there, no sponsorship. But
good beer.
Yeah, good beer. So,
well, I'm pretty sure in an earlier episode we confirmed, well, we'll not be able to confirm it today, about anyone that finishes the 50-kilometre event before midday gets free beer, sponsored by PSR.
Really good point. We do have to talk to this. I don't know if you've heard, Will, about the previous episodes, but we just had to confirm. People that are starting the 50k event, I think they start at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. I've heard, I'm not sure where, maybe it was on a previous episode. I've heard that if they get to the brewery before midday, they get free beers from the brewery.
That is actually 100% true, but you missed a key point. They had to start with a beer as well. So everybody's looking at Phil all of a sudden.
For reference, you got to do the Mount Zero from the start of the GPT to Hall's Gap, so that 50 kilometres, over 2,000 metres of vertical gain.
Very technical.
Very, very technical, and into Hall's Gap in under 5 hours.
Has anyone done that yet?
Once.
Yes. Mikey Dimuantes. In 2023.
He did it in 4:34, I think it was. Was it not 4:24?
It was an insane time.
It was quite a bit under, so it's possible. I'd like to know, Will, because really you're probably the only one of the four of us sitting here that can actually call yourself a local. Your trail running journey here in Garryword, do you want to just describe some of that? Like when did you start? What drew you to start trail running here?
Aside from the fashion.
That's a interesting question, actually. It was a while ago. So, I grew up here. I moved away. I moved back. And before I moved back, I was up in Mildura, which is a very sort of flat, uninteresting sort of land for somebody that likes the outdoors. Previous background of mountain biking. So when I was up there, I tried to get into triathlons. Really struggled with the running legs. I was running in some fancy shoes that probably weren't doing me too many favours in the end, and I couldn't get past like sort of 5Ks with terrible shin splints. Like I'd have to like limp home. When I got back to the Grampians, like it's a place full of trails and full of like 4-wheel drive tracks and just a lot of room to explore. Once I was back, I jumped back on the mountain bike, but it was sort of, a hobby from the past that was sort of dwindling for me, and I thought I'd try running again and still didn't have much luck to begin with the shoes that I was using and that sort of thing. And it was right about that time that Born to Run was a massive book. Everyone was reading that. Saw some logic in the writing there, and started running out with some started to switch over to some Vibrams, really super minimalistic shoes. I was actually living over on the Pomona side at the time. The trails are a little bit sandier, still a fair few rocks, but a bit sandier. And all of a sudden I went from not being able to finish like a 5K run without limping home to doing a 5K run, and then 2 days later doing a 7K run, and 2 days later doing a 9K run, until after about 2 weeks I was doing a half marathon. And then I sort of cooked it a little bit too much. I went out too hard too quickly. You're really supposed to ease yourself into minimal shoes. But that was a bit of a turning point. And after that I realised that I could run, that it wasn't body issues, that it wasn't knee problems or ITBs or anything like that. It was purely running form, which the shoes helped to adjust, and that started me on a journey of sort of working out what works for me. So I sort of progressed from the Vibrams through to the Lunas for something different, and now I'm sort of back into regular trail running shoes, but I'm very specific about what I look for in the drop and the cushioning. Yeah, I don't know. I went through a stage where I was sort of like dabbling in trails and that sort of thing. Went through some, went through a breakup at one point, which is always good to really throw your life into chaos. And that just got me out on the trails and really got into it. And all of a sudden, you'd be going out for a 6K run and coming home 20Ks later. Yeah, that was sort of what really got me into it, and eventually Strava. I hated Strava when I began running. I found it quite a frustrating app, and then one day on a downhill, I'm very much a gravity-assisted runner, especially now. Yeah, I went out one day and thought, I'll have a crack at this downhill crown and see if I can get like top 20 or something like that, and scraped in at like 8th or something down the backside of Chautauqua, and I was like, oh wow, okay, that's pretty cool. And then tried again a week later and top 3, and it's like, and that's sort of like that competitiveness in me just sort of like set things off. And
it's so funny, because I feel like you've hit on 3 big motivators that we've already spoken about. Like one
touched on it, yeah.
One is the Born to Run thing. I think we've all been kind of through that journey. Second is the benefits to mental health, which I still really utilize that. That keeps me getting out there to sort of get my head into the right space to start work and that sort of thing. And the third, the thing that keeps you going as well, is that Strava and that competitiveness. It was so funny when I moved up here, I was not used to the scene where people were actively going out to steal Strava segments, and I was like, whoa,
that seems hostile.
But now I love it.
Yeah, and there's some pretty narky tactics going around. So I was working my birthday, I think last year, as per usual. It's always around Easter, so it's always pretty busy. And I can't remember exactly how it went down. I think Justin might have made a comment to me, and I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you should check your phone, check your notifications. And sure enough, on my phone, there's all these little orange notifications from Strava. You just lost your crown on da 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 da, and you just lost your crown on this, and you lost your and these local friends apparently who run this now very serious podcast had all teamed together to go out and target some of my crowns. Which is they didn't target any of the downhill ones, which were pretty competitive. We
can't get those ones.
I would call it unattainable.
We went for achievable ones.
And on that day, I vowed that I wasn't going to stop training until I got those crowns back, and I haven't yet started, so I don't need to stop yet. Yeah, it was pretty funny. So
it was a lot of work for us in our defence to coordinate going out, getting the crowns. So we had to firstly find a crown that was achievable. And in your credit, Will, the downhill ones are not.
I think all the downhill crowns are not very achievable, but achievable. Because I never thought they were achievable as well until I got them, and then it's like, you just have to set your mind on it and stick at it long enough.
Just not stay on your feet. Just fall.
I mean, I know from following you downhill, I can definitely see the background of a competitive downhill mountain biker.
I guess competitive from my younger years, but you're just processing information a bit quicker when you're used to faster speeds, and it'd be like a motocross rider going to mountain biking, you're just used to everything coming at you that much faster that it's like a bit more achievable.
That's a good analogy, yeah.
I feel like I've got a few lessons as much as I could, but I still can't keep up with you. But I think the thing that really hits me is about when you're going downhill, it's like you're just going from point A to point B, and you've got to generally keep your center of gravity heading that way, and then just seem to use every single surface that supports you to keep your center of gravity on track.
Yeah, yes and no. It's hard to analyze, when you're going, because definitely have slow days and fast days, and the fast days when you really feel like you're floating, you're sort of glancing at your landing points, or where you're basically sort of skimming over, and a lot of the rocks you don't end up using. You sort of go over them, or you just barely touch them, and it sort of guides you onto the next one. You're not putting any weight on it, but it's just yep, here I am, and you're sort of floating through.
Talking about motivation before, and I remember seeing you build and put in some absolutely monumental months in terms of stats. And you've got a lot going on, busy life, trying to balance a lot of things. But I remember one month where it was, you'd set a goal and you just kept getting larger as it got more achievable in terms of some of the stats. I think it was like vert goal, or
must have been 6 or 7 years ago. It was a while ago, but I set out with a double Everest in mind for the month, just to try and rack up that sort of 17,000 roughly meters of vert. And yeah, we sort of blasted past that. You were going out seeking the most amount of vert in the shortest amount of time. I think I was running 10Ks a day minimum and trying to average about 575 meters of vert a day to get that double Everest. I think for record, the best vert value in the park that I found was Kalimna Falls Campground up to Mount William Summit and return. For about a 12K section, you got a bit over 1,000 vert by the time you went up and back.
That's solid.
So ended up on just over 20,000 meters of vert for the month, which was amazing.
No, there's a lot in what you just said. In setting goals and some of the specific trails you got here. I remember going to run up that Kalimna Falls to Mount William trail, and I had a hiker tell me not to do it. He was hiking down it, and he said he pulled out of hiking down it, and I was like, well, I've got to run up this thing because I'm lost.
This was the day you were lost.
Yeah, I was very, very lost. I decided to go out on a bit of a run. Got myself very lost. No water, no food, no phone. One of those sorts of days. I ended up finding a little map showing Kalimna Campground to Mount William. It's about 8 kilometres or something, isn't it?
6.5,
Okay,
something like that.
So as a road runner, I saw 6.5 kilometres. I managed to hassle a camper into lending me their phone. Messaged my partner and said, hey, 6.5 kilometres. I'll see you there in 40 minutes at Mount William. Not knowing it was what's the
800 meters
800 meters up. Thankfully, my partner's very patient, and when I got to the top of Mount William, was sitting there with a coffee, a Powerade, toasted sandwich or something like that, and and a book.
Mount William's amazing, and that's actually we're here to talk stage 6 today of the Grampians Peaks Trail, and it actually finishes at Mount William. Paddy, did you want to run through the stats, because this is the vert monster?
I'll run through the stats. This is typically the sector that people find the hardest out of the 12 sectors. It's not the longest, but in terms of the ascending, it's the biggest. So it's 15Ks long from Burra Huts to the Mount William car park. You go up for 1,260 metres and down for 610. And I always think of it as uphill, but down 610 is still significant as well. It's
definitely not nothing.
It's just a huge sector.
We're talking, obviously, Will, you've touched on descending a fair bit. What that sort of a sector does to your legs once you've worked that hard going up. And, we've talked on this podcast about a few different ways of running these trails. One is if you're racing in the single track event, a GPT 100, or another one is if you're literally just running this segment, but then the other one is, if you're just exploring and having a laugh. But if you're trying to race and you're trying to race up 1,260 meters of vert, and then you're trying to race down, that's a lot of pressure you're putting on your body, and that's some tough going.
Oh, it's huge. And I think out of everyone here, I suspect that maybe Mark has the quickest time going up that sector, because in 2023 in the team stage relay, that was your bit, wasn't it, Mark?
That's right.
It was. It was a pretty amazing experience, actually. This one in particular, so this was the Friday, and the Thursday was pretty warm. And then the Friday, there was an electrical storm that came through. I reckon there was 2 inches of rain that fell on my head during that section, and you could actually feel like all the electricity running through. It was just so invigorating. You were saturated, but it was so much fun.
It's like a performance-enhancing drug, isn't it?
I'm like, well, better run quicker, because I didn't actually stop. Like, after I tagged you at the aid station, Phil, I reckon it was only a couple more competitors after me, and they paused them and they didn't let them keep going because of the electrical storm coming through. Yeah, I know you were talking earlier about mental health and benefits, Will, but this section up to Redmond, I know I had a pretty dark day a couple of years ago, and I was just like, no, how do I respond to this? And I'm like, I'm just going to go and send Redmond. And I'm like, I'm just going to go and just push as hard as I can up to Redmond and come back. And it was good. It sort of helps you. You get that, for me, 90 minutes on the trails, and then you can kind of deal with what the day gives to you, you know what I mean? And
is that how long it took you, 90 minutes up and back?
It was definitely a lot longer than 90 minutes, but it was a pretty cool experience. But I do know, Will, you've actually, I reckon you've done this section there and back. So from Burra Huts to Mount William Car Park and back in one journey, which I definitely have never done.
I've done from the Redmonds Road crossover to Mount William and back, which is, from memory, it's about 28 kilometres. So when I did that as an out and back, I've done it a couple of times as like a point-to-point, and when I did that as an out and back, it was one of the periods that I was sort of like trying to get back into trail running, wasn't totally ready for that size run yet. I was like, right, I'm going to go out on the bike. I'm going to ride from town to Redmonds Road, stash my bike in the bush, which is not that far. It's like sort of 10, 12 Ks, something like that. And then I'll run from the Redmonds Road crossover to Mount William Car Park and then back down again. Not being that sort of fit at the time, I think it ended up taking me 7 hours return, which was a brutal run, but it was also just so awesome to be out there, and it's a beautiful landscape up on that section. I love that bit, one of the best sections in the park, because one, you've usually got it to yourself, there's hardly anyone else out there, and two, it's quite open, there's not a lot of vegetation, like it's all low scrub, a few trees here and there, nice gentle grind up to the dials, you've got a steep descent thrown in, another gentle grind, like very gentle but sort of techie grind up to Redmonds Bluff, and a bit of up and down across to the Mount William Car Park. But yeah, on that particular day, 7 hours to get up and back, and then I was probably a little bit underprepared nutrition wise.
I was going to ask about that, because every time you do a run that just goes way too long.
Yeah, usually like I'm out of gels, and like I've run out of water, and there is a water tank near the Redmonds Road crossover. Yeah, looking sweat off your own body to try and get some moisture in. But I was riding back into town. I was like, why the hell did I ride my bike to the start of this thing? And I'm riding back into town, and it was like sort of 7 o'clock in the evening, and I'm like, I was already planning in my head what I was going to eat. I'm like, I'm going to go straight to the Indian restaurant. I'm going to get some onion bhaji. I'm going to get some naan. I'm going to get some saffron rice. I'm going to get this. And I'm riding into town, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. The Indian restaurant's closed. And I'm like, that's all right. I'm 500 metres away. I go straight to the supermarket. I should catch them before they close, And I get to the brewery, and the lights are off. And I get to town, and all the main street lights off. And there was a power outage.
Oh, no.
And because I'd sort of done this huge effort for where I was health-wise, like it was a 28K run, and yeah, like throw in 30 Ks of cycling, and I'm a bit dehydrated. I'm not thinking clearly, and I'm like, oh my god, what am I going to do? I'm like, I can't get food. I'm going to starve to death, which was ridiculous because I've got a car and I can drive 20 minutes to Stawell, and there's Woolworths and everything like that. But like those thoughts just don't cross your mind when you're that dehydrated and that sort of
depleted.
Yeah, carb depleted. So I was really panicky, and then one of my staff from work messaged and said, oh hey mate, I'm just going to Stawell. Do you want anything? And I was like, oh my god, yes. And I'm like fired off a list of takeaway stuff, and then waited for him to dutifully bring it back, which was amazing. But it was about 20 minutes later, I was like, I could have just driven and got that. So yeah, anyway, like amazing section, but it's sort of thrown me a few curly ones.
Which I don't think you're alone. I think that this
Definitely
section
not.
really catches people out.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, 15k, even if you're doing it point to point.
Yep.
But people massively underestimate this section, I think.
Hard. It's just a grind and it's brutal and it's particularly technical. Once you get over the top of 7 Dials heading towards Mount William, the trail definitely gets more technical and less paved sort of thing.
When you say technical, you're talking about like hardly fitting through holes in rocks and that sort of stuff. It's unrunnable, some sections.
There's definitely that, and like a lot of the rocks on the ground, like that sort of first 5Ks of ascent from Redmond's Road crossover up to the 7 Dials is, it's pretty flat. Like there is some techie sections, but some of the climbs are nice paved stairways.
Yeah.
And then you get to the top of 7 Dials and all of a sudden it's just like, right, trail running. And it's like gnarly descent and loose off camber and, and all the rocks that are on the ground are just sort of sitting there ready to like either trip you over or move under your feet, which is like, it's what I love. Like I love technical running. So
I've been up there with people and you see that you get to the dials, or what we call the dials, I think is generally like the 5th out of 7 dials. You're at the 5th dial and you have this beautiful view. Then you're like, where does the trail go from here? And there's one of those yellow arrows, one of the Doritos pointing off a rock, and it's like, does it really go down there? And then it's a real scramble to get down, and then you have to get back up to the 6th dial.
It's a real roller coaster along the top there. So
is this one of those Doritos that sits on a rock that you can move the rock?
Yes.
Have you seen those? There's the odd one. You're like, oh, come on, guys.
Yeah,
it's a real feature.
Yeah.
A few of the trail markers were put on portable rocks, which the temptation, temptation is there. So.
What was that old TV show that we had when we were kids with the race? Around the Twist. Around the Twist, where they did that race, then he turned all the signs the wrong way around, so everyone else went the wrong way. So you can do that during the race.
Because 100 miles isn't enough sometimes. So.
Yeah, exactly right. You got to make it difficult.
Can't believe it. I'm going to be beaten by a twist. Oh, don't worry, Grooves. Rabbit's got an idea that'll put him out of the race for sure.
How was the experience for you doing the miler in this section, Paddy?
It was interesting. So I just kind of recovered from a lot of things going wrong body-wise up to Burra Hutt, and then that was a bit of a reset at Burra Hutt. Had a bit of a strategy for how to recover nutritionally and for dehydration. Then that's where I could pick up a pacer. So I had a mate, Dave Kingan, who was like absolutely instrumental in me getting the frame of mind where I needed to be to like keep going.
What did he do or say? What was
Dave is just the nicest guy, and he's just, is up for talking about anything. He's a builder / ex-physio, so he was actually really good for practical advice on what's going on, what I could do differently, and then just general banter as well. But we took off, and I generally break that sector down into the 3 different climbs. The first is up to the Dials, the second is from the Dials to Redmond, and then the third is after Redmond, the sort of traverse across to the Mount William Road and then a climb up to the car park there. And I was just trudging away with the trekking poles out, which I find really useful. Like 1,260 ascending meters, I want to save my legs, so have the trekking poles out, just chatting away with Dave. Also, it was like starting at 11 o'clock at night, I think, from Burra Hutt, and that was a real turning point for me, and stuck to the forecast time. I can't remember what it was, but it's nothing very impressive because it was pretty much just hiking.
By forecast time, you mean what was in your spreadsheet?
What was in my spreadsheet?
Yeah,
Spreadsheets are important.
I've
got a feeling it was like 3 hours and 50.
Was that the A goal or B or
might have been?
Phil, did you have a C? Oh no, you didn't do that section because you pulled out at 50Ks.
Yeah.
I think this section actually might be maybe the straw on the camel's back for Phil, because I remember running this section with him overnight as well when he was attempting a FKT.
End to end.
An end to end.
We weren't running though. That's glorifying it there a bit.
Yeah, it's probably lucky we weren't, because I wasn't really fit enough to be a pacer. But I remember doing Burra Hutts to Mount William with you, and we did that. What time did we start that? That was like...
It was late.
It was late. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning or something like that. And I think it took us about 3 hours to get up to Mount William car park, where we decided were a little bit behind the pace for what we wanted to achieve and pulled the pin.
That was a funny one because then I think I had some rice with some soy sauce and I was like, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Did for half a second think about keeping on going, but no, we were so far behind the pace.
Such an incredible section and had so many good experiences on it as well. And I've run that section in reverse with Michael Dunstan as well in his preparation for the first ever GPT 100. We started at Jimmy's Creek and Mike was sort of keen to check out the trails and everything and see what he was in for, and we ran it in reverse just because like really enjoy doing that direction sort of thing. But I remember we started at Jimmy's Creek and we got up to like near the first helipad about 5k's up the trail, and I pointed to Mikey where we were finishing that day, and it's about
I love that
60 or 70 peaks in the distance.
And
like
you can see across the range.
Yeah, and like I knew what I was in for, and Mikey was definitely one hell of a lot fitter than I was, but he was looking at that and he's like, we're going there. I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, we'll be right. And we chipped away at it. We did that section in about 6 hours, I think, one way. But yeah, that section, like in both directions, has just rewarded me with so many memories. And yeah, it's a beautiful part of the park.
I reckon you must have, that must have worn off on Mikey big time. Because I remember the 2023 event where he won. So we'd come into Halls Gap, he'd gone over the top, and I remember talking to you at about the time, they must have been going up Rosea or something, and he was a fair way behind the leaders at that stage, and you're like, nah, he's got this, he's exactly where he needs to be, and I'm like, oh, he looks like he's a fair way off. And then I remember, I probably shouldn't give away Paddy's secrets, but he's got his secret spreadsheet formula where he could see, I should let you tell this story, see the changes in where people's efforts were over the course of the event. From memory, you should probably tell, like Mikey actually, his effort up Redmond in that event was like exponentially.
Yeah, like based on times compared to the fastest runner. Mike Dunstan was the fastest runner on that by far, but you just see like that's where he seemed to win it. Like he had that section obviously in his head, and he just managed to navigate it so well. He just took time off everyone else in the field. And he was definitely the fastest by far. I can't remember by how much, but yeah.
Do you think there was a bit of a shock factor from this section from other competitors? Because if you don't know the area, it sneaks up on you, and it really is tough. Like, it's tough to run. It's, the vertical gain, as we've discussed. If you haven't done it before, if you haven't done the recce that Michael Dunstan had done with Will, you're going to be hitting a bit of shock there, I reckon.
Yeah, a lot of competitors, I heard this did hit them by surprise, and because they didn't know it was coming, were cursing it, and but I actually, it's one of my favourite sections. As long as you know it's coming and it's
that's it.
And you don't have any expectations about, I'm going to do this 15Ks in like 6-minute Ks.
I've made that mistake. Yeah,
it's just yeah.
Like
it's actually really enjoyable. Typically, at the times that the GPT event has been starting, a lot of people do this at night, so you don't get these brilliant views and see these amazing rock features. But it's such a good section that it's worth doing just as an out and back or on a weekend or something.
I mean, that's a good point about motivation, because a lot of the motivation for running out here, in this area, it's so what would you call it, Mark? Is it majestical? Sorry. Yeah.
When we were talking about the fact that we were talking about this section in our pre-potty chat, I think I was saying that the Majesty meter was redlining. I don't know, you get a bit of everything. So that first bit of a section through from Burra Huts to Redmond Road is, it's that's okay. If you're like me and realise halfway through there, after you've gone through the aid station, that you forgot to fill up your Camelback or your water supply, it's probably not the best move. But anyway, you can get through that. But then when you head round the corner past Redmond Road, you got this amazing climb that we've discussed, but you actually go under what's called the old flume.
It's kind of awesome that it's still there. There's this open flume. Imagine a pipe sort of cut in half long ways, and it's essentially an open pipeway of water that used to run water from this side of the mountains across to the Pomonal side. And on that section, you run underneath it. You can still see sections of it where it was propped up. And from an engineer's perspective, it's quite an incredible bit of infrastructure because they've managed to sort of route it around the mountains in a way that there's a gradual drop the whole way.
For like 12 kilometres.
Yeah, for quite a way, and you'll run under it and you can still see the existing stonework, the existing metal, and there's points where it actually goes through valleys, and when it hits a valley and it has to drop down and come up the other side, it'll actually go into a siphon where it's a fully enclosed pipe, and it'll drop down through the valley, go back up the other side, and the water pressure as it flows in will keep it pumping out the other side, which I don't know how that thing doesn't fill up with rocks, but amazing bit of sort of engineering there. And I've walked other sections of it as well off trail, and there's still like old tools up there, old shovel heads and things. But when it gets to the mountain behind Lake Belfield, it actually enters a tunnel which is caged off, and it's quite low on the Halls Gap side. But when they were building that under the mountain, they actually dug in from the Pomonal side and the Halls Gap side. They did the maths, they headed in from each side, and when they met up in the middle, I think they were about half a metre off. So halfway through that tunnel there's a bit of a step. So that was the accuracy of the times, which
is pretty crazy because it was like 1880s, I think, or something like that.
Pretty crazy, and pretty crazy to see that it's still there after, like 100 plus years.
You go past the flume and then you're climbing up that 10-degree flat rock slab. But as you start climbing, it's not too long before you're looking north and you get this amazing view looking north over Lake Belfield. And I know heading up there, I think I've been up with each of you, where you've just got this fog blanket sitting over Belfield looking out across heading north for sunrise, and it's pretty and you get that continuously up to the top of the dials and to Redmond. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, you start getting that view about 2k's into the trail, I think, and quite often the fog rolls in from the Pomonal side, from the farmland. And I remember one of the best mornings I've had on the trails was with you, Mark. We went up and did sunrise on Seven Dials, and the fog was rolling in from Pomonal and sort of Lake Fines area, rolling over and down like this sort of slow motion waterfall into the valley and Halls Gap. And I wasn't into photography then, but obviously fired off some phone photos. And since getting into photography in the last few years, I'm like, man, I've got to get up there again to try and get that sort of those conditions.
And then I've seen some of your photography, Will, from the next section where you go over the dials and then you go up the climb to Redmond's Bluff of, what would you call it, the Rhino Rock?
Yeah, so like that's what I've always referred to it as. Yeah, like I thought that's a really unique feature. There's not too many rocks in the Grampians that look like a rhinoceros's horn. And I've been up there, several times in the middle of the night, 2-3 a.m, sort of camped up there in a sleeping bag and had it freeze over and that sort of thing. But this beautiful rock on your way. It's only about 600 metres from the Redmond's Bluff summit, and since I've sort of taken an infatuation with it, so has Mark, because every time Mark goes on a training run past there, I'll get this little message pop up on my phone with a photo, and Mark's sent me a photo of the exact same thing he always does, the bloody Rhino Rock, which is, it's just like, this guy again, like, no worries. But
he hasn't crossed over into astrophotography versions of it yet?
No, it's always daytime stuff. But the one of the funnier moments that I can recall was GPT weekend this most recent year, and it was pretty hot conditions.
Did you?
Pretty hot conditions mid race. Mark's out there, and I hear my phone go off. I'm making coffees in the cafe. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Check my phone, and sure again, every time he goes past that bloody rock, he's fired off a selfie with it.
During the race.
Whoa, I didn't realise
you were taking this seriously, weren't you, Mark?
Obviously a very serious trail racer here, and his face was red. He looked like absolute death, but he still had time to stop for a selfie with this stupid bloody rock. So, which I really appreciated that. That was awesome.
I think it was the only photo I took during that whole event, but I'm like, no, I can't go past the Rhino and not send it to Will.
Yeah, that made my day. It was awesome.
It's worth mentioning the section after Redmond's Bluff going up to Mount William. I think it's just a thing to look out for, because it's definitely been a few people that I've been running with have fallen victim to it. After Redmond Bluff to Mount William Car Park, I think is one of the most ankle twisty sections of the GPT. So yeah, I had my pacer Dave Kingan roll his ankle a few times in the 2024 GPT. Pete Musson, who was on a training run overnight with me before the GPT, rolled his ankle there and had to bail out. He only had to walk 17 k's to get back to his car. Justin, who...
Yeah, I remember that. I don't think I set him up for failure on that one unintentionally, I should say, but we were doing like a bit of a casual sunset sort of run. And he's like, oh, how technical is this section? And we were running from the Mount William sort of road area to Redmond's. I said to him, oh, it's not too bad. It's not like it's, like Boronia Peak or anything, which is another techie sort of run in the Gramps. And we got about 500 metres into it, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. This is way more technical than I remember. That was early days. I'd only run it once or twice, and I was like, oh, no, it's not too bad. And then once you're in it, you're just like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, there's something about the rocks. They're just like the right or the wrong height and the wrong distribution.
They're like a beer can size. I feel like they're like a beer can size, so it's just like the perfect size that you can't stand on it, but you can't stand next to it. They're everywhere, so they're small enough that they're scattered, and then they move as well. Yeah. And so
that's the thing. There's a few token big rocks that I remember because I find them every time I run it again. I'm like, it's that rock again, the one that it's like 2 meters wide, and you jump on it, and it moves and it just like wakes you up again. You're just like, oh, holy.
Yeah.
But I love that section along the top of Redmond's where it sort of skirts along the edges of the cliff, and there's a bit of a lake up there, or a small dam, I should say, but it's all natural, and it's just, yeah.
But I reckon that section is really deceptive because it's I know you sort of called it a traverse before, but it actually it must be close to 300 metres. It must be 250, 300 metres from the cairn at Redmond Bluff down to where you kind of almost connect in with the road. And then you've probably got another 250, 300 metre up to the car park. I
think I've got some stats here. So from Redmond Bluff to the Mount William car park, you're actually going down 229 metres. Oh, sorry. You're going up 229, but you're starting with a down of 309 metres.
Yeah, so that's actually, and it's probably only 2.5K, so it's probably a 13% gradient as well, but in your head it doesn't kind of feel like that because you do get a vertical K hitting Redmond Bluff, and I know even I'm out in Pomona now, and you don't quite have the trails on your doorstep like you do living in Halls Gap, but you do get a vertical K heading from Pomona up a few of the fire lines, and you connect onto the Peaks Trail just between the Dials and Redmond's Bluff. And if you go up to Redmond's Bluff, you can get the vertical K in, before work if you leave early enough. Yeah. And it's pretty rewarding though, like getting that level of vert in a run. But yeah, that section heading to Mount William Car Park is deceptive. And then even when you hit the road, and then you got that last 2K up to Mount William Car Park, that's actually quite technical and off camber as well. Like it's and steep. Yeah, hard to get a run in.
Actually, Paddy, I was just looking at our running sheet, and you've got a whole bunch of segments listed here. And I noticed that you've got some of the miler sections, you've got dialing in. We've talked a bit about Strava on this episode, but I did notice that you put in as the last one segment that you've got.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
I wasn't sure if you just added that one.
Actually, the one that I've got, I did actually mention Mark, who's also registered at the time. It just so happens Mark is unfortunately in this case number 2.
Number 2, yeah.
Has Pat got a downhill crown?
There's probably another 10.
It is a downhill crown.
Really? Hang on. Wait, let me just check the paperwork.
Will's just left the building.
Yeah.
He's gone to get the crown.
In fact, I've actually got 2 downhills. So
what's the pace on that?
I've got the Bluff Cairn to Redmond Road, which is from Redmond's down to.
Pat, is this going to turn into just a list of all the crowns that you have?
Yeah, it is actually.
So next time we're
going to rename the podcast to Pat's Crowns.
Yeah.
I think we should adjust that to the list of crowns that Pat's about to lose.
That's good. When's your birthday?
Bring it on.
Yeah, when is your birthday, Pat?
I haven't had one in years. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I think a couple of worthy mentions on the segments. So on the
change the subject
on the GPT Miler Sector 6. So Brodie Nankervis in the 2023 event, he's got 1 hour 50 minutes going up. So that's all the way from Barra Huts to the Mount William car park.
Absolutely phenomenal time.
Like that's incredible. That's but Mark has actually got the number 2 time in the same event of 2 hours and 13 minutes.
It's only half an hour behind.
I was going to say this.
It's like 23 minutes behind.
It's still so impressive.
That's very respectable.
And yeah, Artemis Sahuntress has got the best female time of 2 hours and 37. And there's a couple of there's a whole bunch of segments around here, but more generally, there's some really good local runs that you can do as out and backs. There is a loop you can do, but one of the super popular out and backs is just parking at Redmond Road Trailhead and going up to the 7 Dials and back down again, which is like a 10k run with 606 metres of vert, gain and loss. It's so underrated and nobody goes there.
Absolutely. Like, it's one of the most beautiful sections of the park. You get those views north to Lake Belfield and Halls Gap, and as you go up you also get sort of views to the east and west, like 360 degree views really. So it's a really good section. Even the climb, I'm not much of a climber, but the sort of 4.5, 5Ks up is just like a really nice gentle gradient. Like, hats off to the trail builders, they did a really good job. It's probably easier to find your way in the dark than the daytime, I found. With a head torch, it really picks up those Doritos. In the daytime, even though I've run it, so many times, I still find myself checking my watch and just double guessing myself on some corners. But yeah, stunning section, and you've usually got it to yourself as well.
And then there's the out and back all the way up to Redmond Bluff, which is a bit more of an undertaking. So that's nearly 16 Ks and just over a K of gain and loss. Yeah,
and it's like very much a roller coaster as well, because once you get to the Dials, you've got a couple of Dials to get over, and then like quite a significant sort of valley to go through from 7 Dials to Redmonds, and very techie through that section, but the views are worthwhile as well. And
there is, as we spoke about, a spot you can park out on Mount William Road. It's actually about 7.5 Ks from Grampians Road. You can park there and go across to Redmond Bluff if you wanted to see how hazardous that part of the trail is. It's a good one to do. So parking at the road there and going out and back is 6.5 Ks, 348 metres of vert.
That's actually so good at sunset as well.
One of the runs, if you wanted to do a longer run, and you can organise a car shuffle, but it's the Redmond Road, doing this section and section number 7 through to Jimmy Creek. Like, it's you're looking at about a 20 mile, like 32k mission, but like, that is an absolute epic run.
It's a good one. It's like, obviously you need to do a car shuffle, but the car shuffle's quite easy because both points are on the main road. Yeah, I was going to mention too, I've gone from Sheep Hills Car Park to Mount William Car Park, which that's a pretty direct way to the Mount William Car Park.
About 6 Ks.
Yeah.
It's like, again, it's a little bit more overgrown, but nice section.
Yeah, absolutely. And very direct. And you get to Mount William Car Park, you can go back down the GPT, so the nice downhill bits, including sort of Redmonds Bluff, 7 Dials, you can get back to Burra Huts, and from there you can actually take this Ingleton track, which is a very overgrown management track, back to the Sheep Hills Car Park. But, if you're going to do that, 100% you must have the navigation in your watch, or some good pre-planning is required.
Especially like Ingleton Fire Trail, if you're basically going out on that, there's a lot of trails that run off that to the Dunkeld Road. So knowing which one you want to go down to find your car again, or find the starting point or pickup point, that's the clincher sort of things.
You can. I know I've looped it to the road too, so I've ran up to Mount William Car Park and then just back down the road to Burra Huts, which was, it's not as exciting, but I actually assumed that I'd be able to hitchhike, and then I didn't see one car coming back down. So what was meant to be a 14k run turned into a bit of a longer journey, but it was fine.
How nice is that road to run though? Like, when you've got the whole world to yourself, because
it's pretty spectacular. Yeah,
running that like on your own at sunset, with no cars, no people, is one of the most spectacular roads you could run in the Grampians.
Is that the type of get-up you'd want to be taking up this section of trail heading into the cooler months, Will?
Yeah, like, you're very exposed up there. There's not a lot of cover. It can be very windy at times. Most of the time that I've been up there, it's been quite still. I've been pretty lucky with the weather over 7 Dials and Redmonds, but you can't underestimate it because you are quite remote. Getting yourself out of those situations, you've got a few Ks of very technical trail at the bare minimum to sort of get out of.
Yeah, and I mean, I think for this section, I would always take some sort of thermal or rain jacket, or both if it's questionable conditions. Absolutely.
A lot of snakes up there as well, Phil. So
yeah,
want to like take snake bandages and. But yeah, on that section in particular, like especially up around Redmond's Bluff, like it's all like loose rocks and lots of places for the snakes to hide. So it is one of those areas, if it's warm, you got to be careful of...
Take 4 or 5 snake bandages.
Yeah, or just like get bitten and keep running, as Phil does.
Yeah.
I remember the end of the event last year. I reckon my foot landed like 100 mil from this like baby brown, and I was that cooked that I was just like, And usually I would like, if I saw that, I think in previous episodes, I think we'd heard about some squeals and a disco booying going on, but it was just there was that spent that it was just like, there's not much I can do about this now.
I love that.
Maybe that's the technique. You just gotta
care less.
Yeah.
I mean, the snakes are fine as long as you don't approach them intentionally. And I've had lots of different experiences with snakes in the Grampians. One side of things is, you're too tired to care and they do nothing. And the other side of things is you see it mid-stride and nearly land on it, freak out, make an involuntary sound, look around to see if anyone heard that sound and keep going. And again, the snake doesn't...
I've done both of those things.
Yeah, so
I can relate.
But generally the snakes don't care. So I think as long as you're not trying to stir the snake up or anything, you're pretty fine. But you do have to be careful because we do have some pretty venomous snakes out here. So.
Just wanted to say massive thanks to Will for turning up, not only here to share some of his wisdom about spending majority of his life here in Gary Word, but also in the attire and the banter that he's come. So massive thanks, Will, for coming along and appreciate the time you've given, and thanks to our listeners as well.
Next episode is from Mount William Car Park to Jimmy Creek.
Quite possibly the best section in the Grampians Peaks Trail.
Another good guest coming up as well.
No, thanks to all the listeners for tuning in, and just a reminder to keep in touch with Gary Word Trail Running through Instagram and Facebook. Join us for our Friday runs or one of the adventures on the weekend.